I thought universities had freedom of speech for discussing controversial issues like this.
It's not freedom of speech per se.
Welcome to New Unrealist. It's not freedom of speech per se. I mean, to those of you who follow professional sports, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, hockey, hell, soccer, or football, for those of you in the southern hemisphere, there's an old saying when it comes to athletes who change from one team to another as a free agent, where they almost universally say that the reason that they switched allegiances, that it wasn't about the money. Yet in almost 100% of thousands upon thousands of free agent signings, 99.9% I'd say, the free agent player signing with the new team, he goes with the team that offered the most money. Yet in almost all those cases, that free agent or his representatives will say to the public that the move is not about the money. Well, it seems to be working out that there's a version of that in academia, colleges and universities, where like in the case of Lindsay Shepherd at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada last year, when the academic institution, the professor, the administrator, or the campus social justice mob, whatever, where they say it's not about free speech per se or otherwise, then it's about free speech. If you recall the case of Lindsay Shepherd, she was the Wilfrid Laurier teaching assistant in the communications department who was hauled into a faculty inquisition of 3 people who proceeded to browbeat her for playing a video clip of a debate on Canadian public television that included University of Toronto psychology professor Dr. Jordan Peterson. The primary antagonist she faced in that inquisition was Professor Nathan Rambukkana, who was the instructor in the class she was teaching assistant for. He kept trying to indoctrinate Lindsay Shepherd, saying that, playing the words of Jordan Peterson without denouncing or disavowing them to the class was, how did he put it, problematic. What Rambukkana didn't know was that Lindsay Shepherd was secretly recording the meeting and that she eventually would come to share it with a member of the Canadian media. And it took a few days, but eventually, after sharing just a short few-minute clips of the meeting, public interest soared, it spread everywhere to other media across the world, and then the full audio came out. Wilfrid Laurier University became the laughingstock of the world as an indoctrination center of radical social justice ideology and political correctness. And in the end, an investigation found out that Lindsay Shepherd had not even been complained about by anyone. Rambukkana and the other 2 Laurier staff, they'd dragged Lindsay Shepherd into a star chamber based on no complaint from anyone, merely for playing wrongthink in the video. Now fast forward to today. Valerie Flokstra is a recent graduate of the teacher education program at another Canadian university, the University of Fraser Valley. In December 2017, she was summoned into a meeting with her professor Nancy Norman and the head of the teacher education department, Professor Vandy Britton. In a classroom discussion, Valerie Flokstra cited a medical statistic about abortion. In the discussion, that students were told that premature births were contributing to more diagnosis of autism. Flokstra then questioned or speculated that if studies showing a link between abortions and later premature births, that the high abortion rate in Canada might be part of the reason why autism diagnoses are increasing in Canada. Oh, wrong think detected. Asking if those 2 medical facts could have linkage made the classroom a so-called unsafe space, they said to Ms. Flokstra. They flogged Flokstra for about an hour, about the same amount of time that Lindsay Shepherd indoctrination session went on with Rambukkana, Pimlott, and Joel. And perhaps, and this is just my speculation, Flokstra had to know about the Lindsay Shepherd meeting, and maybe that's where she got the idea, but she secretly recorded her meeting. She waited until she graduated from the program, and now toward the end of September, that she's beyond the retaliation of the university or professors, she shared her audio with a talk show host who posted clips from the meeting up on his blog. So there's 2 clips of about 4 minutes in length for both of the clips. I'll play them both and comment after each clip one at a time. The 3 people in the room are Valerie Flokstra, she's the student, The woman who does most of the talking and most of the ideological indoctrination is Vandy Britton. She's department head of the teacher education program. She plays the Nathan Rambukkana role. And occasionally you'll hear from another woman, Professor Nancy Norman. She was the teacher for the course that Valerie Flokster was in. I want you to keep in mind that just like Lindsay Shepard, we're going to find out in the meeting that no one complained. This process was 100% generated by the professors themselves.
Sometimes, well, I know you're a Christian. You've spoken about God and your beliefs a lot.
Yeah.
And you're obviously a very proud Christian, right? In the sense that you feel good about being a Christian.
Yeah. And I realize I can't talk the same way in the school situation as I can here. And my TM and my FM can both attest to the fact that I've been very professional at the school. But here's a place where I'm really excited to have those critical thinking conversations.
But it's not critical thinking, it's critical mindedness, which is different. Okay, so critical mindedness is about being open to other people's ideas too, and hearing what they see and not always filtering it through your lens.
Okay.
So that's where I go back to what happened in the class with me. It's hard, right? Because the same way that we immediately, when we hear something and it triggers a connection for us somewhere else, and so immediately it's a personal thing. So my suggestion to you, and I don't know what you think of this, Nancy, is maybe that when you have those connections that you write them down for yourself. Okay, just like literally get the piece of paper and then you've got that connect, because that's a great way for you to learn. Right?
So you're saying I can't say what I'm thinking in class?
No, I didn't say that. Did I say that?
Because that's what I did, and I feel like that's what I'm in trouble for.
It's not that you're in trouble. It's not that you're in trouble. I mean, it's not with me, and I don't think it is with Nancy either.
It's just that, from my perspective, and what happened in my class, is that I need to make sure that the other students are in an environment where they feel valued and safe, and they can contribute, and they're not shut down, and they're not brought into a place where they're uncomfortable too, right? So that we're all in that same position in that room, and there's 31 people plus me, 32. So my role is to monitor the conversation, and to, when things are when there's the potential for actually a lot of could be very hurtful or painful for somebody in the class, that it's my role to talk to you about that.
But
so if someone in the class had an abortion, and we don't know, there's it's 1 in 10 women. So if that, technically there could be, I don't know, 15 women, so 2 women in the class that may already have had an abortion in their life. And it's that thinking ahead before you say something that we're talking to you about. It's not that we want to shut down what you're thinking, absolutely not. And that's what I'm saying too. So sometimes maybe what it is writing it down to think, okay, what if I say this, does it have the potential to hurt anybody?
But the thing is, it's a medical statistic that I think everyone has the right to know.
But again, I go back to the conversation was about autism. It wasn't about abortion. If someone was going to be, and I would say this is true because I've had this as a teacher, I've had talks about abortion in class, and it's been a project. But I always, before it happens, I talk to students ahead of them and say, if anyone is uncomfortable, for whatever reason, come and talk to me. And I have excused girls from being in the class while the conversation has happened because I care about their safety.
But this is a university, it's not a high school. Universities are supposed to be places with freedom of speech and sharing ideas.
It has nothing to do with freedom of speech and sharing ideas. It's still about you create an environment in a classroom, no matter where, no matter what age of people, that considers the needs of the people. If I came in and didn't let you say what you believe, I'm shutting you down. If I come
kind of feel like you are shutting me down, though.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you to think about the other people around you and how what you might say could impact them. That's a different thing than shutting you down. If I your beliefs are your beliefs, and it's not my place, and I never, ever, ever would tell you what you can or can't believe, or but I can talk to you about what you say and how you act in the class.
It's not critical thinking, it's critical mindedness. Oh, come on. Where do you even start with that? So these radical, postmodern, post-truth, no, post-reality indoctrinators, they want their students not to engage in critical thinking. They want them to monitor their own frame of mind. Critical mindedness, this is a new word game. She has to maintain the correct frame of reference and internalize their radical social justice paradigm. They supplied her in the class with a fact that premature births were contributing to increased diagnosis of autism in Canada. Flokstra cited medical studies showing that abortions are linked to women having higher rates of premature births later in life. Flokstra's mere questioning that if fact A is true, that more premature births lead to autism, and if fact B is true, that abortions lead to more of fact A, then is it not a reasonable line of inquiry that if that if more premature births account for some role in increased rates of autism, then, abortion, if it increases the rate of premature births, surely must play at least an indirect role in increased rates of autism. At the very least, it should merit further investigation or study. So note, Flokstra was not asserting this as an absolute fact. She's merely questioning or speculating this outcome as a possibility for conversation. Citing two related medical statistics and how they might be interacting with each other to some degree. And this is what the professors contend created the unsafe environment in the class. She didn't cite religion or even make a moral or ethical judgment about abortion. It was a discussion on increased rates of autism in Canada. They cited premature births as a contributing factor, not Flokstra. Flokstra pointed out that there are medical studies showing that abortions were linked to increasing rates of premature births for women who had them. So pointing out anything which causes more of the factor that they cited as causing more autism could be indirectly contributing to the increase in autism. It's not only, it's not only sound. They're trying to deny objective reality there, and it's beyond postmodernism. That's why I called it post-reality. But they tell Valerie Flokstra going forward that if a classroom discussion triggers their word, triggers in her another connection, another problematic connection in her mind, remember, critical mindedness, not critical thinking, she should write it down on a piece of paper. Not say it aloud in classroom discussion, no. Valerie Flokstra, she has to write it down on a paper. Nancy Norman goes on to make it clear she's not acting on any actual complaint from a student in the class. They called her in and were indoctrinating her because of the potential for harm. The potential. You can hear it in Vandy Britton's exasperated sighs. How many times this woman sigh, in annoyance? She's impatient with this Valerie Flokstra girl for not adopting her social justice paradigm. She has to edit her mindset to suit their narrow worldview.
I'm sort of getting the impression, though, that you're saying that I need to see everybody else's perspective with critical mindedness, but other people don't need to consider my perspective with critical mindedness. That's the impression I'm getting from
That's what
this.
you're feeling?
Yes.
That's not my intention. Absolutely not.
Then how come when I say something that in my mind fits very well with the current conversation, it's a problem? Like, I'm going to be scared to say anything in class then, because to me everything I've said has been equally valid, fitting into the conversations, including the two comments we're talking about right now. So I'm not going to be able to distinguish between the two, which means I won't really be able to contribute. And plus, I thought universities had freedom of speech for discussing controversial issues like this.
It's not freedom of speech per se. It's that we still consider people's feelings, and we don't just say whatever. Otherwise, that's why we don't have the KKK having a club on campus. That's freedom. That's not freedom of speech. That's hate, right? So we don't put forward ideas that are about that are intentionally or not, that are hateful.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people's abortion is one of those contentious issues that can make someone feel that they feel threatened on both sides, right?
But I did not say any opinion about abortion. All I said was a medical statistic. There's a big difference there.
I agree, but it wasn't the whole story either, right? Like there was, again, I'm going back to the leap, that it was this leap to here, that to there. What you're saying it is that abortion causes autism, which isn't true.
I already said I'm not saying that abortion causes
But
autism.
then why would it have come up? That's the piece that I'm struggling to
Yeah,
understand.
me too.
Well, I think we've already talked through this.
No, but clearly it's still bothering you. That's why I'm coming back to it again, because I feel like you're feeling like you're feeling threatened by what I'm talking about, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, yeah, I guess I kind of am, because I feel like my right to freedom of speech and expression is being threatened here.
You are allowed to say whatever you wish to say as long as it doesn't shut down other people. And I think that's where the question is coming into play. The fact that sometimes when people have very strong beliefs and views, it can shut down other people.
But I'm very open to dialoguing about the comments that I said. I would love to dialogue about this. That's what freedom of speech is about. I'm happy to listen. So I don't see how my comment shut people down then. I think you're shutting me down.
I think how I perceived it as the instructor in the moment there is that there was a lot of potential for that kind of connection between abortion and autism to be misunderstood, misrepresented, to be very hurtful and damaging to other students in the class.
The two professors seem completely oblivious that they are the ones creating the very unsafe space that they accuse Valerie Folkstra of potentially creating. She has to edit her speech at the very least, and in reality, if she followed their advice, she'd have to edit her own mind to catch her own, quote, triggers as a Christian and stop herself from making connections they find, as Rambucana would put it, problematic. They're telling her she isn't allowed to make, quote, the leap that abortion causes autism, which is, that's not what she was doing. She was engaging in critical thinking. She wasn't asserting it as a verified fact. She was questioning, could this be a factor? They're telling her that because, they're not telling her she can't believe or think what she does about abortion, that it's not infringing on her free speech when they tell her she can't talk about it in class. If anything, the one being shut down, made to feel uncomfortable, the one who it is unsafe for her to speak in the class, is Valerie Folkstra. And it's clear from just those two clips, Folkstra says she feels unable to express her thoughts, beliefs, or even questions. Yet these two older women go on and on about some potential harm or potential discomfort. They don't realize that the young woman in front of them is the only one in the equation getting screwed over. Just like Lindsay Shepard's case about playing the Jordan Peterson video, Valerie Folkstra did nothing wrong. The class was talking about autism and cited a reason why Canada was seeing more of it. She cited a perfectly valid and relevant statistic that abortions are linked to more of the very thing they cited as contributing to that rise in autism. It is logic to say if more of A leads to more of B, then anything that causes more of A can be said to indirectly play a role in the increase in B. Like I said before, that's not postmodernist, that's post-truth, that's post-objective reality. I want to hear more of that meeting between Valerie Folkstra and her faculty inquisitors. Let's hope she releases the full audio in the future. That's all for this video on Realist. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to keep up with the new content. Head over to the Patreon or PayPal links if you want to subsidize the channel monetarily, or just use the tip pledge button if you're watching on BitChute. Most important, if you're still paying attention to this video all the way at the end here, thanks for watching.